What is up, and welcome to not another CFP pod. This is the Bowl Special Part 3 coming right at you. We're going to be looking at the bowls in this episode from December 30th all the way through January 4th. And yes, that's right. That means we're going to be looking at the college football playoff semifinal games going down. Those go down on New Year's Eve. So New Year's Eve is going to be a classic. I can already tell you. We'll start with those when we get into looking at those picks and things. But did just want to say we have completely turned our bowl luck around. It seems like as these better teams have started playing, it's easier to get a read on what the programs think. These are also teams that I've seen more than once. It's not just me looking through a lot of statistical data. It's also me going back and looking at the games that I've watched. Situationally, I know more about this quarterback's coming in, so this guy's trying to keep his job, so he's going to play harder. Those type of things that you can take advantage of in bowl season, and so far it's paid off big time. I mean, I'm recording this on Wednesday, December 29th, so we'll see how the rest of our bets shake out, but our first one looks good. The days leading up, we had a 5-game win streak there going for a while. We're winning a lot of games, and so it's been a blast. Before we get into the picks, I did want to mention our sponsor. Not Another CFB Pod is sponsored by Moneyline Dice. Moneyline aims to revolutionize the sports betting market through the creation of both functional and novelty products that sports bettors of all levels will enjoy. Spotted by its golden peaks, the Moneyline logo symbolizes winning, and winning big. Featured products include Moneyline Sports Betting Dice, Moneyline Sports Betting Pocket Notebook, snapback hat, and more. It's really cool stuff. Use the promo code CODA10 to receive 10% discount on your next order. That's promo code CODA10 for 10% off your next order at moneylinedice.com, KOTA 10. And all right, without further ado, guys, let's jump right into the bowls. A lot of exciting ones. Like I said, I wanted to start with the college football playoff semifinals. Those are happening on Friday, December 31st. Our first one is the Cotton Bowl Classic, Cincinnati taking on Alabama in Jerry's World, AT&T Stadium. The spread right now, Bama is favored by 13, and the over-under is at 57.5. Handicapping this game for me is not that tough. I know the SEC teams have looked really weak so far in bowl season, but not only is this SEC West, it's also Alabama. They're just at a different tier than these guys. I'm worried Cincinnati's not going to stand up physically. Now, they may in the first half. If you want to take a first half line for Cincinnati, I think that's the one to go. Alabama will likely cover this number when the game's said and done. Just too much talent, too much speed, too big. I'm really worried about the way Cincinnati's going to match up in the trenches, and I think Alabama rolls pretty easily here. But we'll see. I mean, they haven't lost a game in a very, very long time, and that's not easy to do, even if you are playing an easier schedule, than maybe you play in the SEC. It's not easy to do. 13-0, that's pretty damn impressive. I'm sure Bama wishes they didn't have that loss in there, next to their name, but we'll see. I'm worried about, because I think Cincinnati's attack, they really need to be able to run the ball to set up the pass. I don't think their pass is dynamic enough just to back Bama up and make Bama respect this pass game. They're going to have to run it first, and I just don't know how you run it on these Alabama guys. They're just big, they're just fast, they're just strong, they're all 5 stars. And then Bama offensively, they're basically a giant has woken up. Bryce Young won the Heisman. It was a pretty crappy Heisman, I think we can all agree on that, but he did win it. He is probably the best offensive player this year. So we'll see. I mean, I think he's likely to light up the Bearcats defense. But it's been really good all year too. They've got very physical corners. I think it depends on how it's officiated. Pretty sure it's a Pac-12 officiating crew in this one. And I know they like to call those touch fouls. So if they do, I think that's even better for Alabama. I think they can adjust to that a little better than Cincinnati, just based on their team speed. But we'll see. That is the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, 2:30, New Year's Eve. Going to be a big one. But let's move on to the later game that day and talk about the Orange Bowl, Georgia versus Michigan, the other college football playoff semifinal. Right now, Georgia's a 7.5-point favorite, over under a 45.5. The first bet I put in all bowl season was OU -3. The next one I took was Michigan +9. The line's down to 7.5. I think I still like Michigan at 7.5. We'll see what it looks like It's going to be a dogfight. Wouldn't be surprised if this one under the 45.5. Too low for me to touch in bowl season. This is going down in Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. It's a grass field. We'll see what the weather looks like. Right now, it looks like a clear, beautiful night. Could be good weather for some big plays. It doesn't take much when your total's as low as 45.5. But I love Michigan here. I'm all over them. I think I'm going to sprinkle the money line some at 240. Michigan's got what it takes. I mean, they're tough as it gets. I know everyone looks back at Michigan and thinks they're still fraudulent, and I think that's why the line is where it is. Georgia obviously had holes. Bama made them look silly. Michigan doesn't have the same tools that Bama has, but Michigan still has tools that can make you look silly. Look at the way Michigan manhandled Ohio State. I mean, they were just all over them the whole game. It looked like a mismatch physically. That gives me a reason to believe that this Michigan team can match up physically with this Georgia team. So I like Michigan. We'll see. I mean, I think part of it too is, guys, I kind of want to avoid the Georgia-Bama rematch. It's the most likely outcome. Obviously, both teams are more than a touchdown favorite. Bama's almost a 2-touchdown favorite. I would like to dodge that rematch, but it's probably what's going to happen. The next episode you guys hear will be a preview of the national championship. We'll try to have Squilly or somebody on that can get us fired up if Georgia does win. I know he's a Georgia guy, so maybe we'll pull him back in. But that's our 2 college football playoff semifinal games coming up. Excited about both of them. Obviously, we don't have to worry about opt-outs for either one either, and that's nice. Let's get into our regularly scheduled bowls. Starting on Thursday, December 30th, we have North Carolina versus South Carolina. This is a 10-point spread. North Carolina is the favorite, minus 9.5 to 10, and then over under at 57. Very interesting matchup. I know a lot of people have been giving the Gamecocks a really hard time. Both these teams are 6-6, but the Gamecocks, I mean, they found a way to win some big games, but they also, they got embarrassed against Clemson 30-0, and this isn't anywhere close to Clemson's best team. Will be a fun game to keep an eye on. I don't have any early leans, and I've got to come up with a pick for this game by tomorrow, so I'm going to be deep in the weeds looking at lines tonight, trying to figure something out for this one. But Sam Howell, UNC star quarterback, he is playing. I know a couple studs for South Carolina are out. Zaquandre White, the star running back, and then their big edge rusher, Kingsley Ngabber, I'm not sure how to say it. They're not playing in this one for South Carolina. Part of the reason North Carolina is such a big favorite. We also have the line of, we still haven't had an SEC team win a bowl game yet this year. South Carolina's big underdogs to North Carolina, so we'll see. That game's going down at 10:30 a.m. Our next game on the 30th, Tennessee versus Purdue. Very interesting matchup here as well. George Karlaftis is out for Purdue, as well as their star wide receiver, David Bell. So it's basically Purdue's best 2 players. Tennessee's basically going to have everybody. They got the better vibes. Tennessee -6 is the line, and then over under 64.5. I like Tennessee. I also like the over in this game. It's being played in Nashville, Tennessee. The weather looks pretty darn good, 64 degrees as of right now. So we'll see. I mean, it's an outdoor surface. The over's just been so hot in bowls, it's hard not to take it with a team like Tennessee. I think they're number 1 in plays per game. So you got to love it. Hendon Hooker's turned Tennessee around. Keep an eye on the timeline. I'll have picks for that one. Next, on that 30th, we've got the Chick-Fil-A Peach Bowl, Michigan versus Pitt. It was supposed to be this huge game, but then our stars, Kenny Pickett's out. We find out that Kenneth Walker's going to sit out. Both those guys are going to go in the draft and have, I think, good NFL careers. But it stinks. I think here we've got to lean with Michigan State. We found out that Michigan State, their best receiver, Jalen Naylor, will play. And I think that when you take away one running back, it's not the same impact as taking out a star quarterback. I love Kenneth Walker, but he's not the reason that Michigan State is 10-2. He's played a big role in that, obviously. But Pitt, on the other hand, if they didn't have Kenny Pickett, does anybody think they're anywhere near 11-2? No. This is a 2.5-point spread for Michigan State. That's probably where I'm going. Over under 55.5. We'll see. You'll have to keep your eye on the timeline. But as of right now, I like the Spartans. I was on the Spartans early. I was one of the first people to say that they should probably be top 25, and I think that was after week 1. And people were calling me crazy, but That's one take that actually worked out pretty decently for me. So moving on to the last game that day on the 30th, we've got Wisconsin versus Arizona State in the Las Vegas Bowl. Now, this game's going to be played at the new Allegiant Stadium where the Raiders play. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It looks like a big Roomba, but it's a heck of a stadium. The line is Wisconsin -6, over under 41. Arizona State's going to be out its two best running backs, Rashad White and DeMontre. I can't even say that. Trainum? I don't know how to say that word. And then ASU's also out. Their two cornerbacks, Chase Lucas and Jack Jones, along with linebacker Darian Butler, all over Wisconsin here. They had a bad loss to Minnesota to end their season that kept them from playing in the Big Ten championship game. But I think Wisconsin, is the better team here. And as far as I know, everybody's playing for them. So gotta like them. Their physicality is just going to match up differently. We've seen these Pac-12 teams match up with physical teams like from the Big Ten, and it's never good. So I like Wisconsin here -6. I'll go ahead and give that out on the show. I assume that's what my pick will be on Thursday. But again, be ready on @PotatoGobbler timeline. You'll see the plays there. We're moving on to that Friday, December 31st. We already broke down the two CFP semifinal games, but we do still have two other games that day. The first one goes down at 10 a.m. This is a really interesting game. It's the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl, Wake Forest versus Rutgers. Rutgers at 5-7. Basically, they got called up. They said, "Hey, we need somebody to fill in." A&M backed out of this game, and I want all the A&M smoke. I'm going to slander Jimbo Fisher here. They ran from an L is what they did. They knew they already lost to LSU to end the year. They didn't want another loss. Start getting the boosters hollering at them there in Texas. They knew they were going to lose this game. They're dealing with COVID just like everyone else is. They've got transfers just like everyone else does. They didn't want to lose. So thankfully, Rutgers stepped up, and we still do have this bowl. Wake Forest is a 15-point favorite, and the over-under is 62. This one's really tough. I may take, Wake Forest team total over. As far as I can tell, basically everyone's playing for Wake Forest, and it's a bunch of super seniors. We've loved them all year. They had a tough loss to Pitt in ACC championship game, but they had a good year. They score 41 points a game. Sam Hartman's got this offense churning. Poor Rutgers at 5-7, but hey, at least they found a way into a bowl. Got a couple extra practices out of the deal. I gotta imagine Wake Forest is way more ready for this game. I don't know how much Rutgers was practicing before the news came out that they would be playing. So I don't know. Maybe the Demon Deacons roll here. The next game on New Year's Eve is Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. Washington State Cougars versus Central Michigan Chippewas. Very unique situation here. Central Michigan was actually supposed to play in the Arizona Bowl, but because of COVID issues within Boise State's program, they got released from that game and were able to step in and play Washington State. Miami was supposed to play Washington State here, but, again, one of these teams that kind of backed out. I think they didn't have a head coach just yet. They didn't want to take another loss. It's tough for the program. Washington State obviously has an interim staff as well, but they're actually hiring that interim staff to be their new staff. So I got to imagine here, it's tough. It's a 7-point spread here. Washington State's 7-point favorites, over under 57.5. I think we got to look at this over. We're playing in El Paso. We're playing on turf. Both these teams can score the football. Both these teams aren't great on defense, so why not take the over 57.5? We'll see if that line moves a bunch before game day, but we're not terribly far away from that, so we'll see. All right, moving on to New Year's Day. We've got a bunch of big bowls here that I'll do my best to preview. Starting with the Outback Bowl at 11 a.m. Penn State Nittany Lions taking on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Right now it's basically a pick 'em. Arkansas is a 1-point favorite. Pretty interesting. I think, Penn State showed moments of being really, really good. They just barely lost to Michigan State at the end of the year, 30-27. They barely lost to Michigan, 21-17. They hung in there tight with Ohio State almost the whole game. But Arkansas's won 4 out of their last 5 themselves. They had lots of chances to beat Bama, and that was in Bama. So this is a tough one to handicap. It's really going to come down to who runs the ball better. That's really been Arkansas's identity, but their offense, in general has played better this season. I see a lot of people leaning towards Penn State way. I'll have to look more into this as we get closer to game day, but either way, it should be a good game. Then we've got at noon, Oklahoma State versus Notre Dame. It's the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl. Notre Dame minus 2.5 is the line, over under 45.5. And this is going to be going down in the Arizona Cardinal Stadium there. So it's in a dome, low, under, over. It's tough here because both these defenses are really good and both these offenses have shown a lot of moments of not being very good. But if you look back at Notre Dame's last couple results, they scored some points. They beat Georgia Tech 55-0 and they beat Stanford 45-14. Those are really good wins. Oklahoma State, man, I know that Gundy's really good about scheming stuff up for these bowls, so you can't look too much into their performance offensively leading into it. You know, they scored a lot of points against OU. They scored 37. Then they went to Baylor and just could not punch the ball in the end zone and lost 21-16. This over could be a play, and mostly just because, first of all, the overs in bowls have been hot. Secondly, it's a low total. Thirdly, it's in a dome on, it's grass there, but it is a shorter grass, a nice, clean playing surface. So we'll see, but I kind of looking at that over a little bit. But that'll be a good game. And then also at 12, we have the Citrus Bowl, Iowa versus Kentucky. Not going to be as pretty a game. Iowa 10-3 coming in, Kentucky 9-3. The spread is Kentucky -3, over under 44, but both these teams, man, they're just going to try to run the ball. There's going to be 11 guys in the box all game. Passes are basically going to be trick plays. I really thought Iowa was playing some better football until that Big Ten championship. Michigan smoked them 42-3. I don't know what to think. I think this game's just going to be ugly, and I'm not really looking forward to it. It's probably going to be my secondary game there in that 12 p.m. slate, but I don't know. There's just going to be a lot of running. I mean, the under might be a play. It's tough to say, but this game's in Orlando, so the weather's going to be perfect. Iowa versus Kentucky. I don't know. I just don't know if I can do it. All right, moving on to the Rose Bowl. 4 o'clock, Utah versus Ohio State. This is one that I think more people should be talking about. Pretty interesting game, but I think a more interesting line. Utah is actually 4.5-point favorites in this one, over under of 64. I was shocked to see Utah as not only as favorites, but big favorites. Then I got to digging about the opt-outs, and it's obvious all these Ohio State guys want to go to the NFL. And so Garrett Wilson, Haskell Garrett aren't playing. Chris Olave has been practicing, so we'll see. But there's even more guys out for Ohio State. Defensively, Antoine Jackson, linebacker Cody Simon, cornerback Sevin Banks, safety Marcus Williamson are not practicing, and then all of Utah is basically playing. So this is a spot where you're going to want to take Ohio State so bad because of this line, but I think the play is Utah. We'll see what this line looks like here in a couple days. We'll get maybe a little more news out of who's staying and who's going, but looks like a lot of guys not going to be playing for Ohio State, and a lot of guys are going to be playing for Utah. Sometimes the handicap is that simple. Then we got the big one, the Sugar Bowl going down. Baylor versus Ole Miss, 7:45. Mississippi is a 1.5-point favorite, over under 55.5. Again, kind of have to like the over. Baylor's got a mean defense, though. They're going to have their game plan figured out. Both these teams have won 4 straight coming into this one. Going to be a difficult one to handicap. We'll just have to see what the line looks like. Ole Miss quarterback Matt Corral is going to play in the Sugar Bowl, which is good news. But Jeff Lebby is taking the offensive coordinator position at Oklahoma. So I don't think he's going to coach in this one. Baylor had some news that potentially Gary Bohannon, their quarterback, was injured. But it sounds like Dave Aranda, the head coach at Baylor, is kind of leaning that he's going to play. So we'll keep our eye on it. But it looks like we're going to have kind of full-strength squads going at this one. Going down in the Superdome in New Orleans. Going to be fun. I know as good as the defenses are in this, or at least Baylor's defense is, that people want to take this under, but over 55.5 might be the play on that turf at night in a bowl game. Baylor's going to pull up a bunch of trick plays. This could be a huge win for their program. And Ole Miss is missing some assistant coaches. We'll see if any players opt out. So far, so good. Yeah, it should be a fun one. Moving into our last matchup, Tuesday, January 4th. a really weird matchup of LSU and Kansas State and the Texas Bowl. Not sure why it's going down so late. NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. The line is Kansas State minus 3.5, over under a 48. And this is a classic spot where not only does LSU have a million transfers and opt-outs, you also have to wonder if they even want to be there. Kansas State is supposed to get their star quarterback, Skylar Thompson, back, and they're a much different team with him. He's definitely the leader on that team. Very interesting. The former quarterback for Kansas State, Colin Klein, is going to be the interim OC. So we'll see. I mean, he's going to dial up a bunch of runs, but if LSU doesn't want to be there, it's going to be very easy for them to get out-physicaled by Kansas State here. Not that Kansas State is a lot of talent or even a ton of size, but they definitely have always played with a lot of heart, and that's often what it comes down to in bowl season. Who wants to play, who doesn't? LSU, they've got a million opt-outs. I don't even want to read them. It's going to be interesting. I'm sure old Brian Kelly will be there. He's gonna be lurking around, being sleazy, being a used car salesman. So I'm sure we'll get some cheesy interviews with him. But we're rolling on and finishing this show up. I just wanted to say a big thank you to all the cheapies, everyone out there who watches the show, all the Coda Cappers out there. Appreciate you guys a lot. The positivity means a lot. And we turned our bowl look around. We turned our season around. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, I've got a new desk, so like I'm facing a different direction. There's a wall behind me. Eventually, someday I want to have like a shelf with some stuff on it. I guess you can see my disc golf discs back here in the corner. There's 2 discs there that I aced with. It's just a hole-in-one in disc golf, but that's a different story for a different day. I want to thank you guys again for watching the show or listening, wherever you're listening to. We're on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcast. You can check us out there. Also, be sure to follow at Coda Cappers. Bunch of great guys over there. Shout out to Pace and B-Russ and all those dudes. Love them all. Stay safe out there on New Year's Day. You know, lots of bad stuff can happen. Don't drink and drive. Call an Uber or something. I'm sure those guys will be working hard that night. Don't be dumb. Be safe. Peace out. Love you all.